Hello and welcome to everyone joining us. I see a lot of people streaming in right now, so I'm going to give everyone another minute or two to get logged in and have everyone enter before we get started. Laura, if you want to share your screen again, we cannot see it yet.
Okay. How's that?
Looks great. Okay, we are at 1 o'clock, so I still see some people trickling in, but we will get started with a couple housekeeping things first. So first, thank you all for joining us, and a big thank you to Lori for presenting on this important topic on helping to really connect the dots between EDOs and businesses when it comes to that workforce attraction and development. A couple other notes: we will be recording this session, so you'll get a copy of that in your email either later today or tomorrow morning. And then in that email, I'll also include any resources or offers that are mentioned in the presentation as well. So you can be on the lookout for that. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat or Q&A section and we'll answer them at the end. We'll have some dedicated time for questions. So type them up as you think of them. So then we've got some questions to go over at the end. And from here, I will hand it off to Lori from Homestead Media to go over how to boost your talent attraction and success in your community.
All right. Well, thank you, Audrey. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Thank you to my friends at Golden Shovel Agency for inviting me to share with you today. This webinar came about from a conversation that Audrey had and I had recently, and I was telling her about the online course that I launched, Better Message, Better Talent Pool, and mentioned the response that I had from a couple of economic development professionals when I was doing my pre-course research. And she immediately recognized the same connection that they did, and you're going to learn about that today. Now, I may be meeting most of you for the first time today, but I actually worked with Golden Shovel, was on their team, and worked with Greg Kolbjornsen for a couple of years writing scripts for 360-degree video projects, that the ones that he does for workforce attraction and community tours, etc. Before we get into our topic today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background so you know where I'm coming from and why I'm talking about recruitment marketing. I am a content and recruitment marketing specialist. I'm self-employed and located in rural Southwest Minnesota, Little House on the Prairie territory, if you're familiar with the Laura Ingalls Wilder books. My company, Homestead Media, is just me, and my daughter helps me out from time to time. I work with a handful of companies throughout the US and Canada. And content marketing is all about crafting and distributing messages that create opportunities for interactions with people online and ultimately lead them to an action. So what that looks like in everyday terms is that I do a lot of writing. Web pages, blog posts, customer success stories, social posts, email newsletters, email lead nurtures, webinars, video scripts, and employee experience stories. I'm going to be talking about employee experience stories in our webinar today. I started writing this type of recruiting content for one of my clients several years ago, I think around 2015, when they asked me to do something. They said, Lori, help us do something to help get the word out about our open jobs. And back then, I didn't even know that there was something called recruitment marketing, and I knew nothing about employer branding. But what I did know was that in the sales and marketing world, Sharing stories of real experiences was a powerful way to communicate credibility and guide someone to an action. So it made sense that writing stories for recruiting and talent attraction would do the same thing. Now, that was the beginning of my recruitment marketing journey. Flash forward to today. Through working with my clients, I have developed a framework that I use to enable small businesses to stand out from their competitors going after the same talent. And that online course I created, it teaches my marketing peers how to do the same thing. Now, that's about all of the backstory that I'm going to share with you today. You can learn more about my recruitment marketing journey on my website if you're interested. But today, I want to talk about you and your story and introduce you to something that has the potential to increase talent attraction wins for your community and your local employers. Let's start by creating context for my message to you today. Local businesses are looking to you to bring them new workers, and you are trying. I know you are. I know that Golden Shovel clients are using tactics like marketing strategies to plan and execute workforce attraction campaigns. They're creating microsites and websites that speak specifically to workforce attraction. They're creating videos, both virtual reality and standard. They're doing digital advertising, search engine optimization. They're doing content marketing, writing blogs and employer spotlight stories, and using social media. And this is all to reach more people with the message that your community is a great place to live and work. But is it realistic to expect that your efforts alone can take someone all the way through their decision-making journey to its completion in a new resident and employee at one of your local businesses? There's a handoff there, and that's where the ball is getting dropped. The ball is getting dropped because your local businesses don't know that they're supposed to be on the field with you instead of merely cheering you on from the stands. And that's the problem we're going to tackle today. Before we go any further, let's go over our learning objectives. I'm going to carry this ball game analogy through our content today because I think it's very relevant for a relevant model for thinking about the collaboration that we want to inspire and equip, and it's kind of fun. So today we're going to talk about how talent attraction is like a team sport. We'll go deeper into exactly how local businesses are dropping the ball. We'll talk about how the talent attraction game has changed and why traditional recruiting doesn't work like it used to. We're going to talk about who needs to step up and play a bigger role in the game. And you've probably guessed it's going to be local businesses, but if you stay tuned to the end, you're going to be in for a surprise. And we'll conclude with how economic development organizations and local businesses can work together to get more talent attraction wins. So how is talent attraction like a team sport? Well, your EDO's job is to sell the community, and local businesses need to sell their job opportunities. I mentioned a handoff previously, but it might be better to picture the ball getting thrown back and forth. And this back and forth happens online as people look for information that gives them confidence that they're making the right decision. Now think about the decision you're asking people to make. You're asking them to pull up stakes and move to a new place, start a new job, put their kids in new schools, make new friends, and so on. That's a decision that a person or a whole family needs to feel confident about. Well, how do you build that confidence so people feel like moving to your community is a good decision? You show them what you have to offer and give them a vision of a better future. You answer their questions and you provide proof that what you're saying is true. What's the method to do that? Marketing, using the list of tactics that Golden Shovel is using, just a few moments that I shared a few moments ago. Now, employers have a responsibility to do the same thing. They need to nurture confidence too. How do they do that? They need to show people what they have to offer and give them a vision of a better future. They need to answer questions and provide proof that what they're saying is true. What's the method to do that? Marketing. But are they using marketing tactics? Well, some are, especially if they're connected to a national or a global brand, but chances are good that your local employers are relying on their job listings and their traditional recruiting process to attract talent. And that's where the ball is getting dropped. Well, what's wrong with traditional recruiting practices? Why don't they work like they used to? Well, the traditional recruiting process can be described as reactive. The process is kicked off when there's a need. You have an opening, you post the job, you get resumes or applications, you interview, you hire. Why doesn't this work like it used to? Well, there are several reasons, but I want to focus on 3. The first is that there's a timing issue going on because a business may not have a job opportunity that would be a good fit at the exact time that someone is checking out your community or their business. So there's a lost opportunity when that interest isn't nurtured. The second reason is that businesses are relying on a job description alone to get people to apply for a job. And then too often that application process is clumsy and time consuming. And the result is that people are bouncing away because the time investment that's required exceeds the level of interest that people have in the early part of their decision-making journey. Okay, that might be 2 reasons on their own right there. The third one that I wanted to talk about, and the most important reason why traditional recruiting practices don't work like they used to, is because they do not meet up with modern digital behavior. Well, what do I mean by modern digital behavior? Well, in both our personal and our professional lives, we're using the same behaviors. We're hopping around to different online destinations in order to get the information we need to arrive at a decision that makes us feel confident that we're doing the right thing. And that's what people are doing when they explore, discover, and research jobs too. I'm going to ask you to think of something that you purchased recently that you had to do a little research on. Chances are good that you visited websites of different options you were considering. You read a blog post or a how-to, you downloaded an ebook. You may have looked at reviews and social media channels, watched a video. You may even have signed up for a newsletter, especially if it offered something in return. That's the kind of digital journey that prospective job candidates are looking for too. But what are they finding for the most part? Job listings and not much else that can influence a job change decision. We're going to pause here and take a poll to drive home the importance of human behavior. How many times actually, I was going to throw that over to you, Audrey.
Yes, it's to pull up the first poll. Okay, how many times in an hour do you do an action on your phone, like scroll through social media, answer a text or email, do some banking? Think of all of these. I'll give everyone 10 more seconds to answer. Okay, Victor, does it look like most people have answered by now?
Can't wait to see this.
There you go.
1 to 5 times an hour. I thought it was going to be more than that, but I think the message it got through that we are using our digital devices, laptops, computers, smartphones for doing a lot of things that we need to do in our life. Thank you for that poll. So if employers want to influence the decisions of potential job candidates, they can't rely on doing things the way they've always done them. So they have to do something different. That something different is to adopt a proactive approach to talent attraction. The difference between being proactive and reactive is this. A reactive process is highly transactional. The transaction is, we have a job, do you want to apply? A proactive process builds relationships with candidates, or we can say it's relational. Why should employers seek to build relationships in their recruiting or their talent attraction process? Well, being proactive or relational allows companies to reach more people and influence their decisions, because this is the kind of process that speaks to modern human behavior, that digital behavior that has become commonplace. Essentially, what happens when a company has a proactive process is that they're creating touch points that help people learn about their company and their jobs, with the end result being good fit hires and even the building of a talent pipeline. And that's where employer branding comes in. An employer brand is simply what others think and say about a company and what kind of an employer they are. It's their reputation. And employer reputation is communicated in different ways in different places. It's what current and past employees say on social media. It's what the high school guidance counselor says to students and parents. It's how companies show up online and in their community. And if companies don't actively manage their employer reputation, then they're at the mercy of those people who will speak out. And too often, those aren't always the most positive voices. They're also at the risk of being invisible to the people they want to reach, like those who might be interested in moving to your community. Employer branding isn't something that you switch on and off like you do with job postings. You do it all the time. You show up consistently, and that's what I mean by being proactive. And isn't that the same thing that you're aiming for in your community with your talent attraction strategy? What happens when companies decide to intentionally manage their employer reputation? Well, I've got a few stats here, but here's the bottom line. When companies manage their reputation as a good employer, they can gain a competitive advantage in recruiting. Now, if employer branding is the answer to getting better results from talent attraction and recruiting, how do you do employer branding? And that's where recruitment marketing comes in. When you boil it down to its essence, the job of marketing is to build relationships through interactions on or offline. And that rings true for recruitment marketing. Recruitment marketing is the use of marketing tactics to achieve recruiting or talent attraction goals to attract prospective candidates, nurture a relationship with them, and influence action. Now, when I say action, I don't just mean apply for a job. A prospect is going to take many actions along their journey, doing things like checking out social media, clicking through to an employer's website, checking out employer reviews, signing up for a newsletter, and so on. What I have on the slide right now is a representation of what one candidate journey might look like. And the modern candidate journey could include 12 to 18 touch points in their decision-making process. With recruitment marketing, the majority of the touch points, as you can see on this journey, is they're not job descriptions, and the journey isn't linear, and it's not the same for everyone. Recruitment marketing includes every tactic and channel that a company uses to interact with people around their company or their brand, their purpose, and their jobs, with the result that they build relationships with people and lead them to an action. So on this slide, I've got lists of different marketing channels. There's a few on here that I didn't mention previously, but you might be wondering, do companies need to use all the channels in order to have a good employer brand? And the answer is no. And your EDO might not need to either. In fact, an employer can have a very good reputation or recruitment marketing strategy with just a website, a blog, and social media. The channels or the digital touch points are important because these are the places where employers need to show up, and showing up is my first rule of marketing. But companies also need to have the right message, and that message is not "we're hiring," and it's not just about the job. Well, what's the message going to be if it's not just about the job? Well, let's return to the objective of the talent attraction game. Employers need to show people what they have to offer and give them a vision of a better future. They need to answer questions and provide proof that what the employer is saying is true. When employers become proactive with recruitment marketing, they're going to create touch points to communicate these things. Does that mean that people aren't interested in the job details? Of course they are. But people don't want to just know what they're going to do. They want to know, what's it going to be like? And the kind of content that helps them do that is all about being useful and answering the question, why should I work for you? The why should I work for you question is answered with a subset of questions that differ from individual to individual. And I have some examples of these questions on this slide. There are some questions that are quite global that could pertain to just about any company, but other questions that you might want to ask depend on the type of industry and the business, and also the type of worker that you're trying to reach. For example, I know from working with IT companies that support for professional development is highly valued by employees. So the question that I have on here, how will you help me in my professional development, is very applicable. And I know from working with a farm co-op that learning on the job and having someone available to answer questions is important. So the question, how will I learn the job if I don't have prior experience, is very applicable to that audience. Now, before we move on to talk about how employers answer questions, let's recap why this is important. Potential job candidates don't want to just know what they'll do in the job. They want to know what it's going to be like. And as the study referenced on this slide suggests, relying on job descriptions alone doesn't address the need. So people who very well could be great employees are bouncing away. Let's move on to talk about how employers can answer why should I work for you questions. It's content marketing that gives employers the method to answer those why should I work for you questions and creates the touch points companies need to progressively build relationships with candidates and build their reputation as an employer of choice. The easiest and the best way to get started with content marketing for recruiting and talent attraction is to gather and share employee experience stories. Employee experience stories not only answer why should I work for you questions, but they bring companies to life. And being seen as an organization made up of people instead of a faceless entity adds another level that contributes to relationship building. So how do companies find the stories that they need to share? Well, the minute their people open their mouths, their company comes to life. When I work with clients to gather employee experience stories, I have a list of questions that I develop with the client that will dig into what they think employees value, and what we go digging for, we usually are going to find it. So let's say an employee at an IT company started at the help desk and advanced through the years to become the head of network operations. When I ask about their career path and how the company helped them develop their career, I'm going to find out about how the company supports professional development. And if I ask an employee how the employee knows that their contributions are valued, I'm going to learn how the company communicates appreciation. So I kind of know where to dig, but I love it when there are surprises. For example, at the end of one interview that I did several years ago, I asked the employee to complete the sentence, "I know it's been a good day when," and she said, "when there's spontaneous clapping." And then she proceeded to tell me about how sometimes someone in the office would stand up and start clapping, and then the next person would, and the next, and the next. And pretty soon everybody's standing up clapping. And she said, "We don't even know what we're clapping for, except that someone did a good job for a client." So you can say, "We have a supportive culture," or you can describe spontaneous clapping. Which do you think people are going to remember? Which do you think is going to deepen the relationship? Now, there's another reason why companies should use their employees' voices to talk about what it's like to work at their company. And that's because employees are more believable. It's the difference between the company voice saying, "We're great," and the employee saying, "This is what it's been like for me." One study determined that not only are employee voices more credible when it comes to communicating about their employer, but they're 3 times more credible than the company voice. So I said, as soon as employees open their mouths, employers can bring their company to life and employer value is uncovered. Now, I've used the term employer value a few times, so let's define it. Employer value is essentially the value that employees receive in addition to wages and benefits. That's not to downplay the importance of competitive wages and benefits, but ultimately, wages and benefits on their own can't create a great employee experience. What does create a great experience? It's all those things that make up what it's like to work at the company. These are things like professional development, culture and work environment, impact on the world, work-life balance. Anyone here making a connection with the why should I work for you questions? Now, you might be wondering if employer value is the same as a company's core values and mission. Well, maybe. If one of their core values is work and win as a team, then that should come to the surface as people talk about their day-to-day work. Now, it might be tempting to base employer value messages on core values, but when you're talking about employer value, they usually need to be reframed. For example, an employee might talk about teamwork in a "this is how my team has my back" kind of way. So the focus is on what it means to the employee. The goal of uncovering employer value through employee experience is to recognize themes that can be used to focus an always-on employer brand message. Now, we're not going to go into employer value development process today, but what I hope you're getting is that employers need to change their message from one that's transactional, all about we're hiring, to one that's based on value, if they're going to create a proactive process that builds relationships with prospective new employees and influences their decision. I know that I have just shared a lot of new information with you. Before we move into talking about how you can get everyone into the game, we're going to do one more poll. So Victor, do you want to pull up that poll, please?
Okay, which of the following is most true for the employers in your community? I'll let you take a chance to read through those answers and make your selection. And then Victor, once you see that most people have voted, we can end the poll.
Sure.
Aha, just as I predicted. That was kind of a loaded poll, wasn't it? That's why you're here. Did you know that there's more than 100 people registered for this webinar today? I think this is a big pain point for everybody. Thank you very much for participating in that. So, getting everyone into the game. Now, I've talked a lot about approach, and Audrey and I now are going to give you an example of what recruitment marketing and economic development organization collaboration looks like in practice as we talk you through a decision-making journey. Audrey's going to start us off, and we want you to notice how we toss the ball back and forth. And keep in mind that every journey is different.
Okay, so we created a fictitious character named Sarah. So Sarah is searching for a place to take her family for spring break. She comes across a video that showcases a city surrounded by beautiful lakes and beaches that has also a variety of bike paths and plenty of family-friendly dining options. Just with that, she is stunned by the beauty of the community. The video also boasts that not only is this a great place for people to visit, but it's just as enjoyable for residents. The video claims that there's a great healthcare system, top-rated schools, and a culture of a small town, but with the bigger city amenities. So intrigued, Sarah starts researching the community a little bit more with a thought in the back of her mind that this might actually, in fact, be a great place for her family to live.
Sarah comes across a list of employers in the city and discovers that many have open positions. She checks a few employer websites to see if her skills and experience are applicable. As she scans through the websites of companies that have jobs that she might be interested in, one company sticks out to her. The career page includes glowing employee testimonials along with a video that illustrates how the company's products make life better for their customers. She hops over to their Facebook page and is inspired by what she sees. These people have fun. They look like they like each other and that they have a collaborative culture. Sarah could truly see herself working here.
Excited about this potential opportunity, but of course, being realistic, Sarah begins a deeper search into housing, schools, and other community amenities. Through the local economic development website, she learns that the cost of living is actually significantly cheaper than where they currently live, and there are multiple housing options ranging from single-family homes to apartments and more. She finds a list of daycares and discovers that the schools are highly rated in the state. So Sarah's really thinking, I could see us living here. She can envision the great life that her family could have in this community, and she returns to her job search with excitement.
Although Sarah doesn't find a job opening that perfectly fits her skills, she could see herself at one of the companies that she researched. So she fills out a form to get in touch. The company responds, and Sarah has a get acquainted meeting with them online. They invite her to visit when her family is in the area for their vacation. Sarah goes to sleep that night, dreaming about a new life for her and her family. Now, we obviously didn't bring that to completion, but I think you can see that that talent attraction is it's a long game, and how your two organizations, your local businesses and your EDO can team up. So let's get your local businesses to step up to the plate. Now that you have a picture of what could be happening when local businesses play their role in the talent attraction game, what can you do to get employers out of the stands and onto the field so they can step up to the plate? Well, you start with education about recruitment marketing and employer branding, and you give people a vision for what's possible, just like what we're doing here today. Who is it that needs this education? Well, it's not just human resources and the people who are traditionally associated with recruiting. It's also business leaders, because if companies are going to do something new, something they've never had budget for, leadership needs to buy in. In addition to HR and leadership, marketing professionals need education about recruitment marketing and employer branding. It's marketing that already has the skill set. They just need to learn how to change the recruiting message from one that just says we're hiring to one that communicates value and builds relationships. Well, how are you going to get this education? I'm going to tool you up. I am going to offer you some resources that you can use to teach your local business community about recruitment marketing. And I want to give you one more vision for the future. What if you had a recruitment marketing expert in your community? What if there was someone else who could team up with you and become the go-to resource, not just for recruitment marketing education, but to actually help companies do the thing? You might think I'm talking about me, but I am not. I am one person. I could not possibly take on all the work that is out there. What I'm talking about is a marketing consultant, a freelancer, or an agency who already works with businesses in your community. Because recruitment marketing is an emerging discipline, this person or people that may be perfect for this probably don't even know about recruitment marketing today. So you are going to have to introduce them, and then I can help train them. So as we wrap up here, I want you to start thinking about marketing professionals who you already know, who would embrace the opportunity to be the first recruitment marketing expert in your community. Now, let me tell you about the resources that I have for you. In the post-webinar email that you're going to get from Audrey, you're going to find a link to an on-demand webinar that I have on my website. This is a 20-minute presentation that lays out the foundation for recruitment marketing. This is appropriate for anyone that you want to introduce to recruitment marketing. And that would include anyone else in your organization who isn't here on the webinar today, or HR and recruiting, business leaders, and certainly marketing professionals. The second offer that I have, I put together because I know that it takes time for new ideas to take root and grow. I'm offering you 6 months of free articles that you can publish on your EDO blog. Along with the article, I'll give you 3 social media posts that you can use to promote the article. There's a deadline for this, and it's only for EDOs. The post-webinar email will have a link to a page on my website that explains how this works. And the third offer, and I'm a little bit afraid of throwing this out there because of the incredible turnout that we had for this webinar today, but I'm going to do it anyway. My third offer is to do a joint webinar with you for your community. And I envision this as an opportunity to both introduce local businesses to recruitment marketing and to give you a way to share your vision as to how your EDO and employers can work together to get more talent attraction wins. So that's education. Now for training. I mentioned a couple times in the webinar that I developed an online course, Better Message, Better Talent Pool. This is for marketing professionals. It's not an entry-level course. It's not just a watch the videos and get a badge experience. It's very robust and includes a lot more than just exposure to information. There's work involved, but the result is that students do learn the process and can start implementing it right away. This is what I have ready for that person who's going to become your community's recruitment marketing expert. I have other courses in the pipeline too, and I'll announce those through my newsletter. To wrap up, I want to revisit our objectives and see if we hit everything. So, how is talent attraction like a team sport? Both local businesses and EDOs have a role to play. What are local businesses doing to drop the ball? They're relying on their traditional reactive recruiting process. How has the talent attraction game changed? Technology has changed human behavior. Who needs to step up to the plate and play a bigger role? Marketing professionals. That was a surprise. What's the best way for EDOs and local businesses to get more talent attraction wins? By both playing their part to guide potential new residents and employees along their decision-making journey. So that's all I have for us today. You can be on the lookout for the post-webinar email from Audrey with the recording and the links to the offers that I mentioned. And I would love to learn what your biggest takeaway is today. Either put it in the chat, or when you get the email, if you could reply to Audrey with that, I just would be so interested in hearing what your reaction is to what you learned today. So Audrey, do we have some questions here? And should I stop sharing my screen, or should I just leave this on here?
Let's leave that up for now. And thank you so much. So much great information. I see some thumbs up being sent.
Oh, thank you.
If anyone has questions, please add them to the chat. Don't have any yet. So we'll give people another minute to type.
They're probably just like, oh man, it was a lot.
Exactly. So much great information.
All right.
Otherwise, if anyone thinks of questions afterwards, feel free to respond to my email that I send out, and I can answer what I'm able, or forward those questions to Lori and she can get them answered and reached out to you as well.
And connect on LinkedIn. There's where you'll find me, but if you do a search of my name and it's associated with recruitment marketing, it's pretty easy to find me there. Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy to share with you today. I'm just really passionate about this, and just really happy to share what I know.
Thank you very much, Lori, and thank you everyone for joining us. Be on the lookout for that follow-up email.